Start loving yourself now, not when you've fixed everything, not when life finally feels perfect, but right here, in this quiet moment, as you are. Take a slow breath with me, my dear, gently in and softly out. I want you to pause for just a second and notice how often you've delayed loving yourself. How often you've told yourself, I'll feel worthy when I achieve more, when I heal more, when I become more. But what if that moment you've been waiting for was never meant to arrive? What if the life you're longing for begins the very moment you stop postponing your own love? I know how it feels to look at yourself and quietly feel like something is missing, to carry that subtle weight, that whisper that says, I'm not enough yet. And maybe you've tried. You've worked on yourself, improved yourself, pushed yourself, hoping that one day you would finally feel whole. But instead, you just keep moving the finish line. Let me ask you something, sweetheart. How long have you been waiting to feel complete? How many versions of yourself have you tried to become just to earn the love you've been withholding from yourself? Take another breath, because something very gentle, yet very powerful, is about to shift inside you. The truth is, your life isn't waiting for you to become someone else. Your life is waiting for you to come home to yourself. And this is the first idea I want you to softly hold. You were never meant to earn your worth. You were only meant to remember it. You see, somewhere along the way, you learned that love had conditions. That approval came with expectations that you had to perform, achieve, prove in order to be accepted. So you turned that same pattern inward. You became both the judge and the one being judged. And no matter how much you do, it never quite feels like enough. But my dear, what if you've been measuring yourself with a ruler that was never designed for your soul? What if your worth has nothing to do with your productivity, your appearance, your past mistakes, or how others see you? What if your worth is something constant, something untouched, something quietly present beneath all the noise? Close your eyes for a moment, if you can, and imagine a seed, a small, quiet seed buried beneath the soil. Does the seed have to prove itself to become a tree? Does it have to earn sunlight or justify its existence? No. It simply unfolds. It grows because it is meant to grow. It becomes because it already is. And you are no different. There is nothing you need to prove in order to be worthy of love, especially your own. And yet, I know this isn't always easy to accept, because part of you might still resist. Part of you might say, but I've made mistakes. I've failed, I've hurt, I'm not where I want to be, and I hear you, I truly do. But listen carefully. Your past is not a measure of your worth. It is simply a collection of moments that led you here. And here, right now, is where everything begins again. This is the second idea I want you to gently allow into your heart. You are not behind. You are unfolding. So many people live with this quiet anxiety, this feeling that they're late, that they've missed something, that life is somehow passing them by. But life isn't a race, sweetheart. It's a rhythm, and your rhythm is unique to you. There are seasons of growth and seasons of stillness. There are moments of expansion and moments of deep inner transformation that no one else can see. Just because something isn't visible doesn't mean it isn't happening. Just because you haven't arrived doesn't mean you're lost. In fact, some of the most important changes in your life are happening beneath the surface, just like that seed, quietly, patiently, without pressure. So maybe instead of asking, "Why am I not there yet?" you could gently ask, "What is unfolding within me right now?" Do you feel the difference in that question? One creates pressure, the other creates presence. And presence, my dear, is where your power lives. Because when you are present, you are no longer chasing. You are no longer resisting. You are simply allowing. And this leads us into something deeper. The third idea, one that changes everything when you truly feel it. You don't receive what you chase. You receive what you are ready to hold. Take a breath with that, because this is where many people get stuck. They think life is about pursuit, about effort, about constantly reaching for something outside themselves. But the truth is much softer than that. Life responds to your state, not your struggle. If you are constantly chasing love, it often means you feel like you don't have it. If you are constantly chasing success, it often means you feel like you're lacking it. And life, in its quiet intelligence, reflects that back to you, not as punishment, but as alignment. So instead of asking, "How do I get more?" a gentler, more powerful question is, "Who am I being as I wait?" Are you being someone who trusts or someone who doubts? Are you being someone who feels whole or someone who feels incomplete? Because the version of you that already feels whole moves differently, thinks differently, chooses differently, and over time experiences life differently. This is where your transformation truly begins. Not in forcing, not in chasing, but in becoming. And I know this might feel subtle, almost too simple, but that's because the deepest truths often are. You don't need to fight your way into a better life. You don't need to exhaust yourself trying to become worthy. You simply need to soften and return. Return to yourself. Return to the part of you that has always been enough, even when you forgot. So right now, in this moment, I want you to place your hand gently over your heart and just feel your presence, feel your breath, feel the quiet aliveness within you. There is nothing missing here, nothing broken, nothing incomplete, just you being, and that is enough. And now, my dear, stay with me here, because this is where everything begins to soften even more. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. You don't have to rush this. You don't have to understand everything all at once. You just have to be willing to feel something different. Because the moment you begin to love yourself, even a little, your entire inner world starts to rearrange in the quietest, most beautiful way. Not all at once, not in some dramatic, overwhelming shift, but gently, like the first light of morning, slowly touching the edges of the sky. Let me ask you something, sweetheart. What would change in your life if you truly believed you were already worthy? Not someday, not when everything is fixed, but now. Would you still speak to yourself the same way? Would you still doubt every step you take? Would you still shrink yourself just to feel accepted? Or would something inside you begin to relax? Would your shoulders drop just a little? Would your heart open just a little more? You see, this is the fourth idea I want to place softly in your awareness. The way you treat yourself teaches the world how to treat you. not because the world is watching you closely, but because your energy speaks before your words ever do. If you constantly criticize yourself, you unconsciously accept criticism from others. If you constantly feel unworthy, you unconsciously tolerate situations that reflect that feeling. But when you begin, even in the smallest ways, to treat yourself with kindness, to speak to yourself gently, to choose yourself quietly, consistently, something begins to shift. You stop begging for love and start recognizing where it already exists. You stop chasing validation and start creating it from within. And slowly, almost without noticing, your life begins to reflect that new energy back to you. Not because you forced it, but because you finally allowed it. Take a breath and let that settle, because this isn't about becoming perfect at loving yourself. It's about becoming aware of how you've been treating yourself all along and choosing, moment by moment, something softer, something kinder, something more true. Now, I want to gently guide you into something very simple, but very powerful, not a technique, not a rule, just a small shift in awareness. The next time you catch yourself being hard on yourself, I want you to pause, just pause, and ask yourself quietly, would I speak this way to someone I love? And if the answer is no, then soften your tone, even slightly, even if it feels unfamiliar, because the fifth idea is this: self-love is not a feeling you wait for. It is a way you speak to yourself, a way you treat yourself, a way you choose yourself again and again, even on the days when you don't feel worthy, especially on those days, because those are the moments that matter most. Those are the moments where you break the old pattern and create something new. Now, my dear, let's go a little deeper together, because there is something hidden, something quiet, that often blocks us from fully receiving love, not just from others, but from ourselves. And that is fear, not the loud kind, but the subtle kind, the fear that says, if I truly love myself, will I lose my drive? If I accept myself, will I stop growing? If I let go of this pressure, who will I become? And I understand that fear, because for a long time, you may have believed that pressure was the only thing pushing you forward, that being hard on yourself was the reason you kept improving. But let me gently show you something different. Growth that comes from love is sustainable. Growth that comes from pressure is exhausting. One expands you, the other drains you. And you were never meant to live in a constant state of pressure. You were meant to grow, like that seed we spoke about earlier, naturally, steadily, without force. So maybe, just maybe, you don't need more pressure. Maybe you need more compassion, more patience, more understanding, not to make you weak, but to make you whole. Take a breath with me, because this is where your internal shift deepens. Instead of asking, how can I fix myself? Try asking, how can I support myself right now? Do you feel that difference? One question comes from judgment, the other comes from love. And the energy behind your questions shapes the answers you receive. Now, I want to offer you something very gentle, a small moment of affirmation, not something you have to force, but something you can simply allow to pass through you, quietly, softly, in your own mind. Repeat after me. I am learning to love myself, exactly as I am. Take a breath. I do not need to earn my worth. Slowly, I am allowed to be gentle with myself. Again, I am becoming someone who chooses herself. Let each word land. No pressure to believe it completely. Just let it sit like a seed. Because even the thoughts you don't fully believe yet are still planting something new within you. And over time, with repetition, with patience, those thoughts begin to feel more natural, more familiar, more true. Now, sweetheart, let's gently bring this into your everyday life. Because self-love isn't something you practice only in quiet moments like this. It's something that lives in your smallest choices. It lives in how you start your morning, in how you speak to yourself when something goes wrong, in how you respond to your own mistakes. So tomorrow, when you wake up, before you reach for your phone, before you step into the noise of the day, just take one moment. Place your hand on your heart again and simply say, I am here for you. That's it. No pressure, no perfection, just presence. And throughout your day, when things feel overwhelming, pause, breathe, and remind yourself, I can move through this gently, because you don't need to rush your healing. You don't need to force your growth. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to stay with yourself. To not abandon yourself the way you may have in the past. To become your own safe place. And I know there may still be moments where you fall back into old patterns. Moments where you doubt, where you criticize, where you forget everything we've just shared. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you've failed. It just means you're human. And even in those moments, you can return again and again without judgment, without shame, just gently, returning to yourself, because this journey is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming aware and choosing love a little more often than you did before. Start loving yourself now, even in the parts of you that still feel uncertain, even in the parts that are still healing, even in the parts you've been trying to hide. Take a slow, gentle breath with me and just arrive here again. Because this moment, this quiet awareness you're feeling right now, this is where your transformation truly deepens. Not in effort, not in force, but in understanding. You see, my dear, there are layers within you. Soft, invisible layers built over years. Beliefs you didn't consciously choose. Patterns you gently inherited. Ways of seeing yourself that were shaped long before you even knew what self-love meant. And sometimes, without realizing it, you've been living from those layers. Not from your truth, not from your wholeness, but from old stories that were never really yours to carry. Let me ask you something, sweetheart. When you look at yourself and you feel that quiet sense of not enough, whose voice does that sound like? Is it truly yours? Or is it something you absorbed from the world around you? Maybe from moments where you felt unseen, or misunderstood, or not fully accepted for who you were. And slowly, gently, without even noticing, you began to believe, I need to change, to be loved. I need to do more, to be enough. I need to become someone else, to be worthy. But my dear, those were never truths. They were just interpretations. And interpretations can be released, not by fighting them, not by forcing them away, but by seeing them clearly, Because the sixth idea I want to place softly into your heart is this: awareness is what sets you free, not perfection, not control, just awareness. The moment you become aware of a pattern, it begins to lose its power over you. The moment you notice that voice, that critical, heavy voice, and you realize this is not truly me, something shifts. A small space opens between you and the thought. And in that space, you get to choose, not react, not repeat, but choose. Take a breath, because this is where your freedom lives. In that tiny, quiet gap between the thought and your response. And I know sometimes that voice feels strong, persistent, convincing. It might say things like, "You're not ready, you're not good enough, you'll never fully change." And for a long time, you may have believed it. You may have followed it. Let it guide your choices. Let it shape how you see yourself. But now, you're beginning to see differently. Now, you can gently say, "I hear you, but I don't have to become you." Do you feel that? That softness? That quiet reclaiming of yourself? Because you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. You are the presence that notices. And presence has no judgment. Presence simply is. Now, let's go even deeper, my dear, because there is one more layer, a tender one, a layer many people don't even realize is there, and that is the fear of truly receiving love, not chasing it, not longing for it, but actually allowing it, because receiving requires openness. It requires vulnerability. It requires you to believe, on some level, that I am safe to be loved. And if, somewhere in your past, love felt inconsistent, conditional, or uncertain, then part of you may still be protecting yourself, still holding back, still saying, it's safer not to fully open. And that's okay. That part of you is not broken. It's protective. It learned to keep you safe in the only way it knew how. But now, you're no longer in that same place. You're no longer that same version of yourself. And you can gently begin to show that part of you. That it's safe to soften, safe to receive, safe to love and be loved. Not all at once. Not in a way that feels overwhelming, but slowly, patiently, like opening a door just a little at a time. This is the seventh idea. You don't have to force yourself open. You just have to stop closing yourself off. Do you feel the difference? One is effort. The other is release. So instead of asking, how do I become more open? You can gently ask, where am I still holding back? And with no judgment, just awareness, you begin to soften. Now, my dear, let's bring everything we've shared into something simple, something you can carry with you, not as a rule, not as something to get right, but as a quiet way of being. Each day, in small moments, come back to yourself. When you feel overwhelmed, pause, breathe, place your hand on your heart, and remind yourself, I am safe to be here. When your mind becomes loud and the old thoughts begin to rise, gently notice them and say, I see you, but I choose something softer. When you feel the urge to rush, to push, to pressure yourself, slow down. and ask, what would love do right now? And let that guide you. Not perfectly, not always, but more often than before, because that's how change happens. Not in one big moment, but in many small, quiet choices. And over time, those choices become your new normal. Now, before we close this moment together, I want you to sit with me just for a few breaths longer. No effort, no trying, just being. Take a slow breath in and gently out. Feel your body, feel your presence. Feel the quiet truth within you. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not missing anything. You are becoming. And everything you've been searching for has been waiting within you all along. So soften, my dear. Soften into yourself. Trust your timing. Trust your unfolding. Trust that you are already on your way, even when it doesn't look like it. And most importantly, start loving yourself now, not later, not someday, but here, because this moment, this breath, this version of you is already worthy of the love you've been waiting to feel. And I'll leave you with this gentle reminder. You don't need to become someone else to be loved. You only need to come home to who you already are.